I'm glad to see people playing football again. These pitches were totally empty for a long time. Hey, there's a little one there. Looks like fun. Hello, everybody. It's 9/11 Memorial Day. We continue with our heroic narratives. I saw the documentary by this Chinese filmmaker about the way the US and Chinese propaganda machines, governments handled the COVID outbreak. Not necessarily the whole pandemic, but the outbreak. And yeah, both sides fling a lot of shit to manage, perceptions and the population and keep things under control. And in the internet age, it's easy to lose trust and burrow into your internet rabbit holes and just get too crazy. It's called Of One Breath, I think it is. I don't know. HBO. And I was listening to Sam Harris drone on about 911, as he does. Always the same thing. Drone on, no pun intended. But I gotta listen to it again. Parts of it just rubs me the wrong way, because he seems to say that the world just doesn't understand how dangerous fanaticism is, and Islamism, and fanatic Islamism, and terrorism, and whatnot. And I don't know if I'm misrepresenting him. I gotta listen to it and write something, because of course the world knows terrorism is dangerous. But I listened to a Michael Shermer thing also, and he made the point that, we've done a pretty good job since 9/11 of preventing these things. Afghanistan didn't have much to do with that. And the risk of morons doing nasty, terrible things is always going to be there. And there are, he made the point that 13,000 or so people every year get killed in gun violence, but nobody wants to talk about that. So you can tally up how many people in the States were killed by a terrorist attack. Let's say a Muslim or Islamic extremist jihadist terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda or some ISIS or some faction. Well, of course we know it's terrible. You're not going to downplay it. But he seems to think that the whole world just doesn't understand why he's so worried about Islamic extremism. When they take credit for terrorist attacks, they're telling us they're gonna kill us. The other thing he never seems to want to talk about is, like, what are the preconditions that led to the formation of these groups? Did they just pop into the world like that? Like, Michael Shermer also made the point that, and also in the book, How Fascism Works, people aren't just born evil. There have to be some socioeconomic and cultural and circumstantial reasons why people become terrorists. and kill innocent people. I don't know why the incel guy shot people, but it'll happen. And I don't know what's going to happen to Afghanistan. Nobody does. But the results of U.S. efforts in Afghanistan are clear. There's no debating it. We're gone. The Taliban is back in control. And we accomplished nothing. There's no infrastructure. There's no democracy. There's no Afghan army. There's no Afghan government. So when Sam kind of alluded to, it was a dumb idea to pull out, or maybe he just meant pulling out in the way Biden did or whatever, he seems to think he's some kind of, special critic of Biden. I mean, who isn't? But anyway, oh boy, who said it first? I criticized Biden. I don't know. I think some famous intellectual influencers, they peak, and maybe it was like when the four horsemen of the apocalypse, or the new atheism thing, and coming up with clever quips to say to Christian apologists like Lane Craig in a debate were really clever and funny. And you write a few books, and Dawkins' God is not great and whatnot, and you're like, okay, I peaked, man. That's the peak. And then you kind of get a big following, and then you just kind of go downhill. I'd rather listen to Jim Rutt. He talks to more interesting people, and he listens to them. He doesn't bluster too much. Every once in a while he has an anecdote, but it's fairly brief. It doesn't interfere with the guests too much. So yeah, terrorism sucks. We have a new agency, Homeland Security and all that stuff, and everybody's monitored now, and every crisis gives the people in control. I mean, it's not a conspiracy, but bankers and rich people and hedge fund owners and politicians and their donors, corporations, a little more license to grab a little more power and control. I mean, it just happens, right? They take advantage of it. They're opportunists. How could you argue with that? That's not conspiratorial. Peter Joseph, an artist who made a crazy movie and he's a conspiracy lunatic. Well, he sure as hell put some work in writing a couple of books explaining his train of thought or ideology or whatever you want to call it. He's a legitimate guy who's interested in progress, human progress and flourishing. I mean, there are conspiracies all the time, like Michael Shermer said there was a conspiracy on 9/11. There were Saudi terrorists and who conspired to fly airplanes into U.S. buildings, and they did it, and they accomplished it because U.S. agencies wouldn't cooperate with one another. There were warning signs, and they weren't taken seriously after having had so many other terrorist attacks before 9/11. I mean, they should have had some better idea. But a lot's been written, many books, a lot's been said. Some of them are very well researched. That conspiracy, it worked. They accomplished what they wanted to do. And Sam Harris mentioned that as well, and he's right. But to make out like the whole world, he's trying to tell people, fear Islamic terrorism and extremism and religion and everything. Well, gosh, I'm afraid that, after all the bluster of the new atheists, and I used to be a big fan, Nothing's changed. The human instinct, religious instinct, varieties of religious blah blah. The religious instinct is well intact. It hasn't gone anywhere. People are still religious. People still have their religions. America's more crazily evangelical than it was with their savior, Donald Trump. I mean, man, it just gets crazier. And as things get more difficult, as organized societies collapse and become disorganized very quickly because of circumstances, people will just get weirder and crazier. And it would be nice if a lot more of us understood these things and tried to work within their communities to help people prepare for changes and adaptation. We're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to muddle through. Because there won't be any silver bullet. I mean, unless fusion energy comes about. But even then, will that help us with inequality and so on? And this is a problem. It's not the kind of equality, the straw man equality that Jordan Peterson refers to. Yeah, there's no such thing as absolute equality. Nobody ever said that. Who said that? Who was talking about that? I don't know. Anyway, so much has been written about it, and it's good stuff. You know? Anyway, yeah, Sam just goes on and on like the whole world. 20 years after the 9/11, the 20th anniversary, the world just doesn't understand how dangerous Islamic terrorists are. Well, we fucked around in Libya, we fucked around in Yemen, we fucked around in Syria. Or maybe it's something heroic, I don't know. The narrative has to be that way. And really, honestly, what's it accomplished? At the end of the day, the poppies are going to grow. The CIA maybe will go to the triangle to grow their cash crops. It's going to be harder than Afghanistan. And the market's not going to disappear because people are sick in America. So they're going to want their heroin. So we mourn the day. We look back at the horror and we mourn. But do we ever look at the systemic and structural preconditions and conditions that allow for these things to happen? Do we try to work on that a bit? I mean, is it possible to make things just a wee little bit better bit by bit while we tackle real existential threats that threaten the whole, life on Earth and Homo sapiens as a species and civilization as we know it, organized society and whatnot? I don't know. People don't give a fuck. They want a ticket to the ball game. They want to get drunk and party, have sex, which is okay. I mean, do it as long as you can, I guess. But Sam's overdoing it, and I gotta tell you, you can think I'm a freaking stupid idiot, but I'm a subscriber. I appreciate it when certain people have put in the time and effort, but I think he's not as relevant or as interesting as he once was. And of course, when you say something bad about Brett Weinstein and Weinstein, or Sam Harris, his fans just get so pissed off. It's like, how dare you? But what the hell, I mean, are they really all that? I mean, we're just having a conversation. I'm wondering when we're going to stop having the conversation and start doing things to solve some of these structural and systemic problems that we're having. And that's something we should look at. There's so many ideas, there's so much good scholarship out there. And, you know, there's, like I've said 1,000 times, there's a million intellectuals out there that you probably never heard of that are just as inspiring and relevant as the ones that we know of on YouTube and the podcasts. I mean, everything's commodified and thrown on the market of the spectacle, you know, everything. The marketplace of ideas, and the marketplace of intellectual influencers, and the marketplace of meditation apps, and on and on. And we're all supposed to be rugged individuals and say that, you know, it's our fault if we're not fucking rich and getting along and doing wonderful things and throwing our amazing snaps up on Instagram. What was the result of that whole venture 20 years? Was there enough revenge? Or maybe Sam Harris is right and we're just going to wind up back in there in another few years. Trump will change his mind, get reelected and say, we got to go and bomb them. We got to do some kind of Cambodia Laos thing on them. We got to get the B-52s up in the air. Can't we get some smaller nukes that would just destroy everything but not everything? You know, something like that. I can just see Trump making a U-turn and everybody would be freaking happy, man. The Christians, the evangelists, oh my God, kill those Muslims. It's a holy war. Get rid of them all, kill them all, man, you know. They'd be fucking excited as shit. They'd be tying yellow ribbons and supporting the troops while the whole damn country just falls apart. And in the meantime, America's tearing itself apart. They're going to go from this faux warfare, this LARPing with paintball guns, to I've never been around here. I don't know how I get across this road. Ooh. There's a highway, A9, brother. Why am I riding a bicycle by the highway? Hola, bom dia.
Bom dia.
Howdy. So, yeah, shooting at each other with paintball guns, throwing bottles of water at each other. When's it going to be live ammo and grenades? RPG, RPG. Yeah, the Sam thing. You know, I don't get any views. Nobody gives a shit about some retired guy in Portugal, which is fine with me. But if I title my next piece, what's wrong with Sam Harris? Oh my God, I'll get some views. It's like clickbait. What? Nothing's wrong with Sam, man. He's a genius. He's wonderful. I don't hate Sam. He's okay, but come on. There's gonna be the ire of the fandom. The ire. Oh my God. Where the heck does this come out? Looks like a real road. I mean, People working on creating community banks, co-ops, nonprofit banks, and so on, to try to actually support real business, real ventures, real work, real human endeavor, human collaboration, human innovation, and so on, rather than just having these central banks print money for the people who are closest to the money. The Cantillon effect, Max. But, people don't, it just doesn't catch on. It's weird that we don't, as small communities, get together, but it's much easier to stay on the internet and go down our chosen rabbit holes and feel all safe and cuddly. What was that? Wow. And rather than make an effort to do something with people. Who was it? Oh God. The French guy, 18th century. I was thinking Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, but that's not right. He was so impressed by American civil society. It'll come back to me. And where the hell did that go? The whole world's just stuck in their internet bubbles now. We don't even call each other anymore, we text. It's fucked. I ask a friend, do you want to have a voice conversation? Fuck no. Just because I sent you a fucking PM doesn't mean I want to talk to you. Jesus, what's your fucking problem? Deluded. I don't like you that much, man. You're freaking tolerable, Sometimes. It's just so much better to talk to people. The theory of mind kicks in. You can kind of get a sense of where they're really at. And then you can have a fun conversation.